Why, hello. Welcome to Kyle Astrology. If you are new here, I make astrology videos, not so much in recent times, but I am back and getting into the flow of it. A good amount of my content on here is Scorpio rising oriented, but it's not all of it. There are things on here for everybody, and I have a lot of stuff I'm going to be doing coming up that is a wide range of things. But Scorpio Ascendant, as I am one, will always be one of my most passionate parts and subjects to talk about with astrology, and it's a decent part of my following on here, so I want to still stay true to that. But in this video, without further ado, we are going to be doing the third installment of my Scorpio Rising series, we'll say. It was the first video I made on my channel. I made a second one 4 or 5 years later, and now here I am 4 years after that one doing another one. And I think it's cool to do it every couple of years because as I grow older, I'd like to think I get a little bit wiser, maybe. No, not really. But actually, I find the older you get, the more you realize you actually didn't know a lot and that you're still learning, you're still growing. And with that perspective and just my own personal experiences in life, I've changed and I've grown, and so my experience as a Scorpio riser has shifted from what it once was. And that leads us right into what Scorpio is all about: transformation, life, death, rebirth. You hear it all the time, but it is really phases that will come and go in our lives constantly. This is true for every human being, no matter what your rising signs are. But considering we are being ruled by the sign that represents those very things. So for us, it's going to be life-changing, huge differences. I mean, just like completely, literally, emotionally dying and being reborn again. And sometimes as we go through that rebirth process, sometimes our style will change. Sometimes our flavor and just what we enjoy out of life. A lot of the times our values and what we want out of a relationship or out of a job or out of our life in general shifts dramatically. And for those around us, especially ones who have been with us for a long time, friends, family, lovers, you name it, it can kind of be like, wow, you're a whole new person. And it's like, well, yes, you are right. I am a whole new me. And having gone through this very recently, it feels very fitting that I can make this video and this update and talk about Scorpio rising, coming freshly out of a place of some of the biggest transformation I've ever been through in my life. And that leads to talking about death. Because before something can be reborn again and transform, it has to die. I've used this metaphor and example very often, but as someone who used to live on the big island of Hawaii, that's how the volcano works there. The Volcano Goddess, if you believe in Pele, whether you do or not. Still, the science is volcano explodes, lava flow, it destroys so much in its path, but it's also what keeps the island growing and expanding. Are these devastating lava flows, and eventually the lava rock becomes amazing soil for new growth. And it's unlike anything I've witnessed before, and that metaphor really applies to this, I feel like. In order for us to get to those transformations that we seek, we go through these very intense experiences of death, both emotionally and physically, mentally and spiritually, all of the above. And also that can mean we have a lot of death in our life. And again, that can be on all those levels, but I find that most Scorpio risers, or a decent portion of them, or myself at least, I often tell people that I was kissed by the lips of death when I entered this world. And that could sound very depressing to some, and it used to be for me. And it's something that I once fought against very hard, and I detested it, and I still do to some degree, having just recently experienced 4 of them, very close ones in the last year. That many and that close of time is never happened in my life. This is a first. It really has you go within yourself and pull yourself up by your bootstraps and grow in a way that you would not otherwise. Death and losing people close to you, and even if it's someone more on the sidelines but you're still affected by it, it has a way, it makes you question life, you question yourself, you struggle to get through the pain of the loss, you go through the depression and the agonizing sadness, and then you go through periods of anger and not understanding and cursing the world, cursing God, the universe, cursing the person who died, cursing yourself. There's a period where you want answers and to understand, and you just can't grapple with it. And I'm going through the different 7 stages of grief right now. And there's some others I'm missing, but eventually you get to closure. And it's not that the pain ever goes away, but it doesn't hurt the way it did anymore. It's like a broken bone that eventually heals and you're fine, but when it rains every now and then, it still aches, you know? As stupid as that might sound, I find it really applies here. And so all that to say, and again, that can happen on an emotional, spiritual, or mental level. It doesn't have to be just physical, but it is very often going to be the physical experience of death, of losing others in this realm, and grappling with how we go on without them physically here anymore. Like how do you continue on when one of the worst things has happened? And those are the kind of questions we ask ourselves. And so as a Scorpio rising who has gone through these things, and I assume a lot of you watching maybe have as well, know that this is a natural part of who you are. And the fact that you experience death maybe more intensely than most people, at least inwardly, you're not weird for that. You feel it, you're close to it because you are it. You are the manifestation of death. Scorpio is the manifestation of death. And it is also life and transformation, but death is one of our marks. It's just part of how we are made up astrologically, and there is no doing anything about it. Trying to change it, trying to tweak yourself, and trying to make yourself somehow different, it won't work. And if you do not accept this truth as a Scorpio Ascendant, or a Scorpio-oriented person in general, you're going to really struggle. You're going to really struggle. You're probably going to end up dealing with addiction. You're going to end up dealing with really extreme ways of coping. You will jump into relationships that are toxic. You will probably get involved with drugs. You might... There's all kinds of things, but Scorpio really deals with that skeevy shit in life. And I don't say that in a way to like look down on that by any means, because I've had my bouts with things. I've gone through different addictions of different kinds. I'm not going to specify what those are. There's many more than just drugs. There's sex, there's bad relationships, there's overspending, there's gambling, there is just going manic and going crazy, you know, and being addicted just to a life of danger, because Scorpio is all about extremes. And sometimes when we go there with something, we go there and we hyperfixate on it and we become obsessive. And that can be with a passion or a hobby. It can be with a person. Those are particularly very dangerous. I will say that people can sometimes be just as addicting as drugs, and they can have sometimes even longer lasting damage than any drug could. Maybe not as, actually it can on your mental health too. I was going to say drugs more so your mind, but people can do that too. People really suck. That should be like a Scorpio rising motto. People just really suck. Let's just sum it up with that. We cut through the bullshit. We see through it. We see through it. We see through it with people. I tell you this much: trust your instincts, trust your feelings as a Scorpio rising. Don't doubt yourself. Sometimes people will try to tell you that, you know, you're too this or you're too that, or nah. I mean, I will say sometimes we can get overly pessimistic and sarcastic, and, you know, that's how I cope with life. I have very dark humor, nothing wrong with it, but so people will like make fun of me for that. I'll be like, oh, you're being some kind of way. It's like, no, I know people. I know how they work. I've had enough experience in this realm we can feel the good ones and we can feel the bad ones. And we all have good and bad, but you get some people that really just have, who genuinely do not have your best interests at heart. They do not give a shit, and you do not mean anything to them. And if you enter their life or they enter yours and you entertain them, especially if they're manipulative, they'll take you down. And you have the power to be taken down with them or not. So my advice is, don't get on the ship at all. I say that as someone who has experienced this very recently in life. As someone who is mostly in monogamous relationships and oftentimes has gotten in not the best monogamous relationships, and then you get into the dating world, and it's a battlefield out there, y'all. So for the ones of y'all that are partnered and married or whatever, long-term relationships, much love to you, and I hope y'all are making it work, because as Scorpio risings, we make good lovers. I will say we make good lovers sexually. We make wonderful partners emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. On all levels, we are all consuming and we are loyal as fuck. And once we go there with you, we're there with you. Now, you do the shit that you're fucking up and you're like taking advantage of us and all that, then yeah, it's time to go. Which sometimes even for us, once we're that emotionally in it with someone, it can be hard for even us to cut it off. But when we know, we know. And people often think that we're cold and unloving when we have to do that. But it's like, no, I'm protecting myself because you're taking me down, honey. And I'm not going down with you. I'm sorry. I love you, but I've changed. I've transformed. I've learned what I needed to in this relationship or friendship or family member, acquaintance, whatever, or job. We know when it's time for something to end. And for those of you who hold on longer than you know you need to, and you know it's time to go, I would highly suggest not doing that, because it's only going to make it harder for yourself in the long run and for the other person involved, or situation. Just a little piece of Scorpio rising life advice there that has been a game changer for me. When it's time to let it die, let it die. A new season will begin. Eventually, a new venture, a new person, a new way of life will start. You won't see it in the moment because we experience those emotions and that loss so deeply, even when we're the ones to end it. We might not show them that we're struggling, but we're fucking struggling inside. You just don't see it. We might come across as more callous on the outside, but as a water sign, we are deeply emotional, especially relationally very emotional. Our attachments and our feelings run deep. Very, very deep. So don't let anyone tell you otherwise, although I have a feeling if you're watching this, you already know. But really, that is a lot of the big points that I wanted to make in this one. I also want to say, be sure to check out your chart rulership. You are ruled by both Pluto and Mars. Pluto being a slow-moving planet, it's very generational, so your Mars placement is going to be more personal to you directly, whereas even though Pluto is one of your chart rulers, that's such a slow-moving planet that it's affecting so many of the fellow Scorpio risings generationally. It's like kind of a group hive mind you're all in. But your Mars sign is the most outer directed energy of Scorpio, whereas Pluto is the more inward side of it. So Mars is very important. I feel like it is not emphasized enough in modern day astrology how important Mars is for the Scorpio Ascendant, which I will be doing videos about soon. So look to what sign your Mars is in, what house it's in, and the aspects it's making to other planets or planets making to it. It's going to tell you a lot about how your Scorpio rising is going to manifest itself in your life, and where that energy is going to be concentrated on the most. So please do yourself a favor and do that if you have not. And yeah, that was my last little point, but I want to thank you all for watching. It is so good to be back in the hot seat of astrology. If you are interested in booking a chart reading with me, please look in the description down below. I do have a website. I soon will be working on getting my own domain. Maybe when some of you see this, that will already be up and running. But I offer very good prices for what I offer. Not to sound, egotistical or anything, but it's my time, it's my energy, and I'm good at what I do. And I have confidence in that. So if you're interested in one for what I consider to be a really good deal, hit me up. And if not, check out my videos. I post plenty here of information for you to also get as well. So thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, and stay well.